over-index on positive emotions and we avoid any negative emotions.
I've experienced bouts with depression. I've experienced bouts with anxiety. Because you did something and you went through it, that's not a life sentence, right?
The mind is a tool, it's a machine, it's a computer that doesn't always tell us to think.
Hey everybody, it's Red Taylor here, and I've got a big old favor to ask of you. If you would, go down and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also please share this episode with someone that you care about. Man, that would mean the absolute world to me. You never know, it could mean the world to them as well. So thanks a million, and please enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, it's Red Taylor here with another exciting episode of the Red Hot Read, and I want to just give you a little introduction to our guest today, because I really believe that he's going to be able to give you some insight on a lot of the elements that it takes in order to be successful in so many different facets of our life. He is an ICF certified life coach who wakes up each and every day with a simple purpose, and that is to help others rediscover their powerful inner strengths and to give clients and students the tools that they need to make more meaningful decisions and to aim higher and to elevate their lives. I love that, okay? Because that's what we're all about here as well. In 2015, he founded the Elevate Life Project, which is an online community for people to rediscover their true selves and gain the skills to move forward and find lasting success. He's dedicated to helping his clients and students find balance in all aspects of their lives, including emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical well-being. Man, don't we all need all four of those to be improved? He feels his purpose is to serve others through his teaching by encouraging students and clients, people just like you and I, to become steadfast in their practices while integrating spiritual and mindful living into their day-to-day lives to achieve their goals, live their dreams, and achieve the impossible. And we are just grateful and thankful to have him today. Everybody welcome our guest, Michael Kohan. Michael, welcome to the Red Hot Read.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and let's just have a good time, Red.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, brother. Is I tell everybody that comes on the show, man. First, obviously, I'm grateful, and that my whole goal in doing this, and the purpose behind the Red Hot Read, and what got me off my old butt to get out in front of a camera at the ripe old age of 51, almost 52, is just to add value. Just to have a purpose, as you've stated here, to give back and to help other people change their lives and grow to become closer to that better and best version of themselves. We have a saying around one of my main business here, which is Red Taylor Insurance, to chase greatness, and whatever that means to anybody, it's almost like a gimmick around here, but it's really not. I mean, that's my challenge to really everyone that's around me in life, and really in myself. When I look in the mirror in the morning, I'm saying, hey, brother, are you chasing greatness or not? So let's talk about this. Give us the inside scoop. How did all this happen, Michael?
All right, this is gonna be a little bit of a journey because
yeah.
So originally I went to school and got a degree in psychology, a degree in sociology, a master's in psychology, and I was going to be a therapist. But some life events happened, and I kind of dropped out of the program and didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. And parents, being parents, said, go get a job. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I ended up working in New York City, and I found myself over a 10-year period in New York City. At the height of my career, I was making about $250,000 a year. I was 32 years old, and I worked in real estate finance development, and on paper, it looked like I had this great life. And behind closed doors, I just was dying on the inside. I wasn't the smartest person, but I outworked everybody. And the reason why I outworked everybody is I had prescriptions to Adderall, to Focalin, to Xanax and Percocets. And I basically saw 6 doctors a month who gave me 6 different prescriptions. And
Mm.
every morning I would take a bunch of Adderall, and I would work from about 7 in the morning till about 10 at night, 11 o'clock at night. And I would come home all jacked up on, methamphetamines and speed. And I would drink and take Xanax and Vicodin to crash, to do it
Mm.
all over again. And, we all have core values, right? We all have core values that guide us to who we want to be. And one of my core values has always been success, right? On a positive, it motivates me. It allows me to push through when things get hard. It allows me to persevere. But it also has a negative implication. I can become overtly aggressive. I can sacrifice my mental and emotional well-being. I can damage relationships, all for the pursuit of success.
Yes.
And that was the character I was living. So at 32 years old, when I was looking at this person in the mirror, I didn't like the person looking back at me. So I walked into my office and told my boss I quit.
Wow.
And I got rid of all my stuff and started pursuing spirituality, yoga, mysticism. At one point, I was contemplating becoming a monk. And I ended up meeting my wife, and I was 38 years old, and I met my wife. And you got to earn a living if you want to get married. So I started teaching yoga, and I was running around teaching yoga, really struggling to make a good living out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was making like $60,000 a year. If you live in Ohio or you live out west, that's a really good living. I live in New Jersey, and I live in Somerset County, New Jersey. That is one of the most expensive counties in the country. And $60,000 in Somerset County, New Jersey is like $30,000 in Kansas. So
It ain't cutting it.
No. And so I sat down with my wife and was like, got to figure something out. And I came to this conclusion that what I really like doing is helping people. That's really my calling in life. That's my purpose. And so I got certified in coaching and said that's my passion, because that's like the energy I'm going to put into it. And my belief is that I can build a business where I can make a good living. And over the course of 10 years, I built this online coaching platform where now everybody is like, how are you so successful? How did you do this? And everybody thinks I built this in like a 2-year period. They did not witness the 7+ years my wife and I were behind the scenes struggling to cover our bills, putting in long hours to get to this place I'm at now.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Such a good story. And, there's nothing better than hearing stories of redemption and perseverance. So many of us have battled dark times and been in dark places in our life. And, if you're listening to this show today, then there's a reason God put you on this show with Michael and I. And it may be because you're in a dark season right now, or a dark road on the journey of your life. And what I would tell you, and what Michael's probably going to tell you, is just don't give up, man. Don't give up, because it's not permanent. Like he said, he was going through a really tough time. Man, I've been through some of the darkest times in my life that you can imagine. I've experienced bouts with depression. I've experienced bouts with anxiety, with aggression, with anger, with, where I want to just lay around and waller and say, why me? Woe is me. And all the things that everybody endures during different seasons of their life and of their journey. But just as you explained, because you did something and you went through it, that's not a life sentence, right? Okay. It's
Right.
a part of your story if you're able to just keep going. Okay. That's the game. The game of life, in my opinion, and I believe that you may agree to some extent, is to just keep going. So, and it sounds like that's what you've done, and you've been able to create a really successful coaching business. So 2 elements that I want to really tap into today, and I'm going to come back to the coaching business because there's definitely some interest out there with our audience on that. But I want to talk, and I want to go into the 4 cores that you mentioned, okay, that you truly are are called to help people to live their best lives in their emotional, their spiritual, their mental, and their physical well-being. So start with the emotional. Just walk us through a brief synopsis, if that's even possible, Michael, of those four elements. We're really getting into the nitty-gritty, but that's what I want. This is the content that this is the value that people need, right? So give us your take on those four elements, please.
All right, audience, buckle up. And I usually do this over a 3 or 4 1-hour sessions to break all this down and teach people this. So we start with emotions, right? And I'm a big proponent of this, and I'm really fascinated by this because starting in the 1950s, really accelerating, starting to pick up steam in the 60s, then got a little bit of a low in the 70s and 80s, and then started accelerating in the 90s, and then took off in the mid 2000s, is this idea that emotions are either positive or negative, right? So we become this culture where we over-index on positive emotions and we avoid any negative emotions. And the first thing I teach people is to understand emotional intelligence. And I can give a long-winded answer, but usually I lose everybody. It's simply put, when you're in a state of high emotional intelligence, you experience your emotion, whether it's positive or negative. You apply critical thinking to respond to the situation to provide the best possible outcome. Meaning fear, anxiety, worry are just as important to experience in life as happiness, joy, and contentment are. All emotions is providing you with data to then use that information to figure out a course of action or to change the narrative. What most people do is if they experience an emotion, they think a negative emotion is a problem in life that they should fix. And so they grab onto it and allow it to control them, or they do everything in their power to avoid it. And that's really accelerated. And now in 2024, you have kids who have social anxiety, and you have adults who are afraid to be in public, who have 15 guns in their house. I'm not anti-gun, but there's no reason why people need 15 guns to defend their home. You just need one, right? And you don't even, right? And so it's all this gravitating and latching onto emotions, right? And so when we come to that conclusion, we define it by understanding data. How we get there is understanding that all emotion intelligence is comprised of 5 components: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, knowing when to have empathy versus sympathy and have a backbone with an open heart, and social skills. The first 2 components, self-awareness and self-regulation, are the most important ones. Self-awareness is to have a clear understanding of how you see yourself and to have a clear understanding how others perceive you. We do that by knowing what our core values are. And so everybody has core values, like 5 core values. My core values are success, being a man, confidence, spirituality, and mindfulness. These are my guiding principles. In self-awareness, when we get triggered by our emotions, it's because we're either out of alignment with our core values, or the event or the individual we're interacting with is out of alignment with our core values. So we become emotionally triggered. So we have to understand that those emotions that we experience are providing with us with data to say, are you in alignment with your core values or are you out of alignment? And additionally, are you fulfilling your core values in a positive, uplifting way that provides you with a great life? Or are you fulfilling it in a negative way that moves you away from your ideal self? the rest we can get into, but I just gave you a lot of information there.
Hey everybody, Red Taylor here, and I wanted to remind you that if at any time you're interested in shopping your health insurance or life insurance rates, my team of experts work for my viewers for free. So reach out to us, click the link in the description at redtailorinsurance.com, and we'll go to work. We'll see if we can save you a ton of money and upgrade your benefits. If we can't, we're going to tell you, hey, stay right where you are. What you have is working, and we're happy for you. If things ever change, let us know. So reach out. We're happy to help. Enjoy the show.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Really good stuff. And I'm not going to attempt to unpack all of that right now. But one of the core principles that I feel like my wife and we find is very important to us. We have 6 children. We're a blended family. And one of the things as a parent that we desire is to keep our children from pain, right? To protect our children, right? And what we have agreed on and noticed is that in order, if we do that to a great extent, then we're actually doing greater harm to our children.
Right.
Everybody has to go through their own stuff, right? It just like you said, if it's a negative emotion, fear, anguish, anxiety, depression, what have you, we have to go through it. That's a data set that we need in order to grow to, as you said, the better version of our emotional self and to gain experience into being a self-aware being, a greater self-aware being, so that we can mature and grow, in our life and give back to our others and become the best version of ourselves. So there's so much more of what you said, but I just wanted to touch on that because I can relate to it so much in parenting and really in my person. We all try to avoid the negative, the pain, right? I mean, I think that as humans, would you agree that we're motivated either by pain or by pleasure? And the majority of us are really, motivated by pain. The fear of pain or the try to get away from pain versus the pursuit of pleasure.
Well, I mean, so we can go into a little bit more detail, understanding what we like to call social comparison theory, right? Social comparison theory states that as individuals, in order for us to fit into this world, we compare and contrast ourselves to others, right? How do you know that you're in physically good health? Well, you see other people on the street and you say, well, I'm healthier than an individual, typically through physical experiences. How do we know that we're doing a good job at work? You compare your work to other individuals. How do you know you're doing good in school? Well, you compare your school ranking versus other people's school ranking. So comparing yourself to others is part of the human condition. We are designed to compare ourselves to others because we are designed to be group-oriented individuals. No matter how much we go online, no matter how much we try to create these isolated boxes that we live in, we will never feel good about who we are as an individual or how well we're living our lives unless we have human interaction with other people. Not just our core family, but strangers. That's why people feel better when they go places like the mall, the movies, and grocery shopping, rather than ordering their groceries online and either sitting in their car or having it delivered. That's where people become isolated, right? So bringing it back to the original conversation, social comparison theory dictates that we compare ourselves to others. So because of that, we then have, because of technology, what is called the halo effect, right? Also known as social implicit theory, where we take a version of an individual or an idealized life and say, that's the model I need to live by, or I am somehow failing in life. Somehow I'm not happy. I'm not joyful. I'm not successful, right? And so we think then that if we experiencing anything that's not related to this idealized halo version, somehow we're failing in life. So we see, and so then social media is a huge component of it, but it's also movies and television and traditional media, where we think that that's the life that we're supposed to live. And it's been accelerated. So then we label emotions as either negative or positive. And in reality, all emotions are good. Stress is a valuable tool, because if I didn't experience stress in life, I wouldn't work hard. I wouldn't have done all the training I have to be on this podcast with you. That is a part of life.
You don't grow without stress. You don't grow without stress. I tell our team all the time, I say, the best version of yourself, whether it is emotional, spiritual, physical, financially, the better version that you're chasing is just on the other side of those hard things, the hard crap that you're putting off, that you're running from. Okay.
Correct.
If you don't have stress, you don't have growth in any of these areas. Okay. Let's move next to spiritual, because I think it's really important. And this is a hot topic. And I don't want to get, I don't want to go into a situation where we're, really on the fringes on this, but it is important. We're spiritual beings, right? Everybody's a spiritual being. And I think that so many people see this as a taboo type of deal, right? So I think it needs to be discussed at a high level. And thankfully, you're one of the experts in the industry. So give us your idea on that.
Well, I think more and more people are gravitating towards spirituality, right? Spirituality can be simply put as this: asking this question, right? Or these questions. Who am I? Who am I as a person? How am I doing in this world? Am I showing up in a way that adds meaning? Mm-hmm. And am I making the world better? That's all spirituality is. Religion is the path at which you look for those answers. We can use that as a capital
Say that again.
R.
Hold on. That's too good. That's too good. Go back. I want the 4 questions, and then I want the pathway by which we find them. Please, one more time.
Spirituality is asking the question. That's all it is.
Yep.
Who am I as a person? What does it mean to me to be alive? Am I living a good life? Mm-hmm. And am I making the world better?
Yes.
That's spirituality. And then ultimately, what does it all mean?
Yep.
Religion is the path at which we pursue those answers. We can have religion be capital R religion, right? Mm-hmm. Traditional faith-based religion. There's nothing wrong with that. Yep. Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism. Or religion could be lowercase r, right? Developing practices that help us answer that question.
Yeah. Yep. Good.
For me, it's meditation. I meditate every day.
Yeah.
Every day for between 10 and 20 minutes. It allows me to examine those thoughts. Other people, it's hiking in the woods. Other people, it's going to the gym and exercising. It's asking that question of how I can live in a good life and be intrinsically motivated rather than extrinsically motivated. And I butcher that word because of my dyslexia. What I mean by that is to be motivated by internal rewards rather than being motivated solely for external rewards. Accolades, wealth, that's all fine if you have those things. But in spiritual practice, we look for those internal rewards, right? Contentment, fulfillment, purpose, connection. Those are the things that how we can be successful materially and be spiritual at the same time.
So good. Really good stuff. So let me unpack it from my own personal perspective. So first and foremost, I'm a Christian. I love the Lord. Jesus is my Savior. But I do believe in energy frequencies. I believe that we're all beings of energy and we give out energy frequencies. I think meditation is something that I'm being drawn more and more to. And as my practice in the morning is I always wake up before everybody else and I don't go straight to work. I'm not one of these guys that got this massive morning routine, man. I go in, I get my cup of coffee and I sit down at the same place in my living room. And I've got my dogs. They always follow me out there. I've got 3 dogs and I just love them. They're just the best thing ever. And, I look at these these wonderful beings with such gratitude, and really all because they teach me the level of love and and loyalty that I will never ever attain and achieve. And so I begin my day, and I can't call it meditation, but it's just with gratitude, man. I'm just thankful and grateful, not just for my dogs, but that I get to sit in my house and drink my coffee in silence. And I know that my wife and my children are safe and secure, and that that we're cool in the winter, or cool in the summer, and we're warm in the winter. And it just sets the tone for my day. Now, I do believe that there is a higher plane and a higher level in meditation. And I've read some things in meditation where, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I just kind of want to say this from my own personal, curiosity, that, meditation is something that I always thought that you sit there and you think, you try to think all these thoughts, and you try to just go into this plane of, something weird, you know what I mean? It's just something silly. But, the more that I've kind of studied it a little bit, and I haven't gone deep in it, but I have studied a little bit, is that if you get into a state of meditation, it's not that you're sitting there talking and you're thinking all these thoughts. It's that your thoughts go blank so that you can receive that higher word, so that you can receive the presence of whatever your higher power is. Okay. Do you feel like that's an accurate assessment of it? Like I'm kind of getting closer than maybe I used to be when I didn't have an assessment?
No, I think that's I think that's really good. Like for me, I look at meditation as simply a tool for me to examine my thoughts, right? You are a thought
Simplified.
producing,
Yeah.
you're a thought producing machine.
Yeah.
I've lived in silence in monastic life, and I have gone 30 days without speaking, and my thoughts have still chugged along. You're never going to get rid of them. And so the goal of meditation isn't to empty your mind. The goal of meditation is to become the observer of your mind, right? The whole concept of spirituality is you're not this body, you're not this mind, you're something divine, you're something more, something spiritual, right? And so that the mind is a tool, it's a machine, it's a computer that doesn't always tell us good things. And so when we're able to sit with our thoughts and be comfortable in that silence, then we can ask ourselves this question quite simply is this reoccurring thought I have serving me and providing me with value, or is this reoccurring thought I'm having harming me? Once we can identify the ones that are harming me, because that's really what we want to work towards, then we can ask the question of, well, why am I having these thoughts? How can I examine these thoughts? What is the narrative I need to do to change the concept around this thought, right? Which is the concept of emptiness. Or what is the solution I can come up with to solve the problem that's causing the reoccurring thoughts that are holding me back in life? The problem I think most people have is this, right? And this is for everybody that's going through a hard time in life, right? We all have hard time. We all struggle. We all are doing our best. It's this idea that we, on an intellectual level, if I said to somebody, like everybody has everybody has problems. Everybody will be like, oh yeah, no, I know everybody has problems because I have problems. I know that. But on an emotional level, we think that we're the only ones dealing with challenges. And we think everybody else has this easy life. Or we know that everybody has problems, but we think our problems are so much greater than everybody else.
Well, we see it on our phones. Everybody else's life is wonderful. Right. Instagram, Facebook, it's the best of, right? Nobody's real. All the filters, the family get-togethers, the smiles, the poses. Right. How many takes do we have to do to get it right? Yeah. So sorry, but yeah, it drives me nuts. But so go ahead. Sorry about that.
So, and in reality, we all are dealing with the same level of challenges in this world, right? You might have a different name to it than mine. Right now, you might be going through a bit more of the steep, more of a storm than I am. Mine might be a little bit of rain and some sunshine. and you might be going through a storm with thunder clouds and a tornado, but that tornado is going to dissipate, right? It's going to get easier.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is when we're like getting to that realization where we're trying to deal with those problems, and like why people listen to these podcasts, to grow, to change. We think as soon as we start working on solving these problems, that storm is not what we're not going to deal with it anymore. It's somehow going to be turned off immediately. And it's going to continue to blow. And we're going to continue to have to clean up the mess. And sometimes for the rest of our lives, we're going to be dealing with problems that we have created for ourselves. Gratitude, which goes back to the original statement, is so powerful because when you can look at your life and you can have gratitude, everything in life is enough. In America, for the most part, like I'm talking, I can only speak to for North Americans and Europeans, because I'm American, so that's what I relate to is Americans. If you make around between, like as a household of husband and wife and 1 to 2 kids, if you make around $70,000 a year, you have enough to live your life well, go on vacation once a year somewhere, and save enough money for retirement. So then why do so many Americans have less than $500 in their bank account? And why do so many Americans constantly say that they can't afford to buy a home, they can't afford to retire? Why are so many Americans constantly struggling in life?
So you hit on a lot of different topics there, and these are topics that I'm really passionate about. The debt, the debt that Americans are shackled with. Okay, I think I read a statistic the other day that something just just blew me away, that like 81% of American families do not have an extra $1,000 in their bank account as an emergency fund. People, wake up. Okay, let me tell you what's going on here. All right, you're using money you don't have to buy stuff you don't need to impress people that you don't like and don't like you, that don't matter in your life anyway. Okay.
Right.
And what is it getting you? It's getting you another set of burdens, another set of problems. The debt that you shackle yourself with is entangling you and basically sentencing you to a life of servitude that it's not normal. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Okay. And to go back to what you said earlier, as far as everybody's got problems. Everybody's got problems. Okay. And I think that I've taught myself, for the most part, a different way to look at problems. When I was a young man, I read a book called Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, I was young. I was like 19, 20 years old
school
reading
book.
this book. Yeah. And it really changed the trajectory of my life, not at that specific time, but it opened my mind up to a different way of thinking, because I came from nothing. I mean, I was poor. We were, just poor, okay, broken family, emotionally just distraught, whatever. So anyway, in the book, Tony said he used a term called neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. You may have seen some of this in your work. And basically, the premise is that we are able to change the way that we think about our life, the way that we think about circumstances, the way that we think about events, the way that we think about experiences. So in other words, let's just say if I'm overweight, I was overweight my whole life. I was a football player. I was a lineman. And so it was important for me to be heavy back in those days. And so it's kind of programmed to me to be overweight. Okay. Well, when I realized that I didn't want to be overweight anymore, I had to view being overweight as something that I hated. It was something that made me feel terrible, something I didn't want at all in my life. And so in order to avoid that pain, I went in a different direction. Okay. I got my butt in the gym. I pushed away from the dinner table. I started changing the way that I ate. Okay. And that enabled me to get into a level of physical fitness that was more empowering for me in my life. And we can all do that. Everyone can do that, can't they? You can change, our thought game in my world, the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. And the scripture is pretty dang good. Okay. So if we are able to start working and changing our thoughts from, like you said, those negative thoughts, those bad thoughts that are disempowering us, into focusing more on positive and good thoughts that empower us to succeed in these levels of our life, then we have a much better chance. Now, here's the question. Here's the key, Coach. How do we change our thought game?
Okay. All right. So when I'm having this conversation with somebody in this mic here, I will explain to them the idea of what you were touching on, the idea of emptiness, right? Emptiness basically states that everything in this world is empty until you give a name to that object or experience or event in life. So you can look at a pen and label it a pen or writing tool, but if you took the cap off the pen and threw the cap on the floor, it would no longer be a cap, it would be a chew toy for my cat, right? That's the definition of emptiness.
Okay.
Right? I think one of the biggest problems that people have when they're going through change, or why they make bad choices, right? Why do so many people get into credit card debt? Why are so many people in America obese, right? Why are so many people in jobs that are soul crushing, right? We make decisions not based on our future self. We make decisions based on present self. So people overeat and don't ask themselves, well, what will be the implications if I overeat 10 years from now? People buy things that they can't afford, not with the idea of what will I be saddled with 10 years from now if I buy this house I can't afford, go on this vacation that puts me in debt, or my favorite, for a lot of people, have a giant wedding instead of taking the money that you put towards a wedding and buy a house, right? My wife and I, we did not have a wedding. We were like, why spend the money? Let's take that money and buy a house instead. And so I think a lot of people first, they make decisions based on their present rewards rather than future success. And it's really hard because that future is not yet realized, right? And so in order to change the mindset and change the narrative, you have to change your identity. And that's really hard because people identify themselves with where they come from, right? I'm an American, I'm European, I'm Chinese, I'm German, I'm French, right? I'm white, I'm black, I'm male, I'm female, I'm Christian, I come from a broken home, I come from a good home, I'm college educated, I'm poor, I'm rich. That's the first identity, where they came from. Their second identity is the obvious. What do they do for a living? Because that's what everybody asks. Hey, where are you from? And what do you do for a living? And when you're taking a survey, what's your nationality? What do you do for work? And then finally, the third one is where you are now, your community, right? That includes, are you married, your core values and your neighborhood. In order to change, we have to change that identity by which the habit or activity that we're trying to pursue, right? So for example, when I'm coaching people who smoke, right? When they say to me like, oh, I'm trying to quit smoking, I say, well, you're never going to quit smoking when you keep saying you're trying to quit smoking. You have to choose to be a smoker or choose to not be a smoker and then go be that person. So if you want to quit smoking, you have to change your identity around smoking and say, I am a non-smoker. Now you're going to keep falling back on that addiction to tobacco, right? No one's saying that's an overnight fix, but that's where the start is changing the identity. Once you change the identity, then you can ask yourself the question, what are the habits that I need to implement in order for me to live in alignment with that identity? That's how we begin to make change. So we can say things like, oh, I have lots of credit card debt, right? And then you're a person that lives with credit card debt. Or you can say something like, I have financial troubles today, but I'm working towards creating a rich financial life for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Then I begin to ask myself, what are the habits and what are the pain points that I got to work through in order to have that rich life in the future? And then once you get there, then you begin to make decisions on what my rich life will look like today, and then what will my rich life look like tomorrow.
Yeah. So good. So good. So the way that I simplify that in my mind and with the people that I coach and teach is with a simple term that if you want to be successful, one of the key elements is being able to sacrifice what you want now for what you want the most. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you can define those things in certain elements of your life, just like you said, in relationships, okay, in really all facets, we're so short sighted. We're so me focused. We're so self centered and selfish that we make emotionally charged bad decisions far too often, which lead us down roads that take our self-image, our self-worth, our self-joy away from us, and basically send us into this person that is, well, I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. I can't, I don't like my wife, my husband, he's got a dad bod and he watches too much, sports, and he plays golf and he's never around. He doesn't do anything around the house. I don't like that guy either. And so, and then my kids, we really don't have a good relationship. They're a bunch of turds, and I hate my job. Right. I mean, how many people can resonate with those terms? Some of them, but really almost all of them. And it's really a pandemic of our society and our culture. Okay. And so I guess one of the things that I harken back to all the time on this is because from a psychological perspective, we do talk about emotional health. We do talk about, mental health, which is very, very important, and spiritual health and things of that matter. Okay. But one of the things that I don't really hear being talked about often, and maybe often enough, is discipline. Okay. Because emotionally, I don't want to go to the gym today. Okay. I don't want to. All right. Emotionally, I want to eat the whole damn pizza. Right.
Pizza at all.
Okay. I want to eat every bit of the tacos and the cheese dip. I want to eat it all. Emotionally, I want all the pleasure. Right. But if I don't have discipline, or if I do have discipline, and I'm committed to the discipline, then I'm able to override my emotions. So where is the principle of discipline being taught and instilled in our culture, and where the hell did it go? Why are we not disciplined to be able to say, no, I don't have an extra $1,000. Right. I can't go buy that today.
Well, I mean, you and I are like, you're in your 50s, I'm in my mid 40s. We remember the 80s, and we definitely, I don't really remember the 70s, but I do remember the 80s, and I do remember, things were expensive when I was a kid. Like televisions were expensive, flying was expensive, cars were expensive, life was expensive. It's been a relatively phenomenon where you and I, with our handheld device and our access to buying clothes and goods online, are wealthier and then someone 100 years ago that was an aristocrat like JP Morgan or Carnegie Mellon. We have access to more entertainment, more goods, more food than people did that were in the upper 1% of society 100 years ago.
Yes.
So this is a new phenomenon that we are dealing with. And we, as a society, as individuals, have not yet caught up to it. All right. This has been going on, the rate of technology and growth has been accelerating since the 1800s with the cotton mill, right? Luddites, right? That's where the term Luddites come from. I have faith that we are correcting. I have faith that we are starting to get a grip on overstimulation. I think we're getting a grip on overinformation. I think we're getting a grip on disinformation. I think we're getting a grip on polarization. I think we're getting a grip on consumption, right? I think we have to recognize that these are all modern challenges that we're struggling with. However, I do think at the same time, as a society, as a culture, we have hyper protected ourselves in the physical world. And we do not protect ourselves in the virtual world, both ourselves and our children.
Yes.
Right. And so the ideas of discipline go out the window, because why do you need discipline when you can just go on your phone without any pain and purchase something with 2 taps of a button in my facial recognition, and the product gets delivered to me tomorrow? These are things that we're going to have to evolve into and understand. We're not there yet. I coach people on it.
Yeah.
At times, I'm by no means sitting on this side of the camera saying, I live this perfect life. I tell clients all the time, this is not the cult of Michael, right? I am not your guru. This is me giving you the information that allows you to make choices. But I have the same struggles at times. I have the same struggles at times with instant gratification, information overload. I have to create tools in my life, techniques that allow me to regulate those things. Like, we don't have social media on our phone in our house. We don't have Amazon on our apps not logged in. If we want to buy something on Amazon, we have to log into Amazon and go through pay steps. We don't have our credit card store. Yeah. Right. So we have to physically go get our credit card and enter the information that gives us a sense of delay. These are the implementations that we need to start to work on to be able to get to a place of getting back to that correction where we are not being overloaded with food and choices that cause us to become overweight, financially in debt, distant, isolated, etc. The list goes on and on. I think it's coming back. It's definitely went away. I think it's coming back. I think the younger generation, I think the Zennials, and then the next generation, they are really getting a handle on it because they're growing up into it. I think Zennials are having a lot more problems with it. I think the younger generation is really getting a handle on it. I think parents of the younger generation are starting to create the boundaries around it, not getting kids on phones until they're at least 16 years old, not allowing, takeout, DoorDash. Like, these are all things that we're starting to adjust to.
Yeah.
We just need to be patient with it.
Yeah, you're right. You're so right. There is an adjustment period going on. Look, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. If you go back, just go back 150 years, okay, 200 years, which nobody really we can't even imagine that in our mind. But it's such a relative blip on the screen in human history. 150 years ago, they didn't have a faucet. You couldn't turn on hot running water, okay? You definitely didn't have a TV or a MacBook or a camera that we can sit here and talk to each other, and by a swipe of a phone, we can get our message of goodness and improvement out to the world of whoever is able to tap into this audience. And so, with that being said, man, we live like virtual kings today in comparison to a relative short time in human history ago. Okay, yet it seems like we're so much more devoid of happiness, of joy, of impactfulness, because maybe that's a valid point. It has merit. We're going through this adjustment period of trying to deal with the absolute leisure that we have at our fingertips now. So really, really interesting topics. You've hit a couple of bullet points that I think are really interesting. I want to kind of ask them, just kind of go through and get your take on these. But one of them that I thought was interesting is understanding how empowering habits and goals can shape our lives. Give us the quick details on that.
Okay. So statistically speaking, it says that the average person, in order to form a new habit, you have to do something consistently, minimum of 66 times, right? That's the statistical average according to the science from Harvard University. What we have to understand, though, is that that's the average. That is not necessarily the rule for everything. So, for example, in my life, I'm still fighting off post-pandemic weight. Prior to the pandemic, I weighed 165 pounds. I was in really good shape. During the pandemic, through isolation, working full-time at a desk, I found myself last year getting blood work where my doctor said to me, you have elevated cholesterol, you have elevated triglycerides, and you are borderline obese. And I'm 6 feet tall and I weigh that's 210. And I was like, whoa. And so I've been trying to lose the weight, and I've been slowly losing the weight over the last year. And I'm down to about 188 to 192 is where I mix right now. Good. My goal is to get down to, I want to get down to around 175. That if I get down to 175 to 182, according to the BMI index, I'm in the normal weight ratio. It was really hard for me to start exercising again. And I was a full-time yoga teacher. I was teaching yoga. I was doing handstand push-ups in the middle of the room prior to the pandemic. I was hiking 12 miles a day with my partner, right? And I got to a place where it was really hard to do anything. I just lacked the energy. It took me over a year to get the idea of exercising on my Peloton 3 days a week for it to become part of my life again. How we do that is to understand that when we want to form a habit, an empowering habit, I'll get to that next, we have to give it time. That if the average is 66 consecutive times, that every time we break the cycle once, we reset that clock. And some habits take more than 66 consecutive times. Like for me, exercising 3 days a week in the morning on my Peloton probably took me 100 consecutive days to actually make it part of my life, right? And every time I broke the cycle, I started the clock over, right? So that's the first component. So if you are trying to make changes in your life and you are trying to implement habits like to lose weight or to make better financial choices or whatever it is, it's not going to happen overnight. That's the first thing.
No.
The second thing is this. You have to ask yourself this question, right? And I say this to my clients always. Whenever I'm working with clients, especially with clients who are like, I want to start a business. This is the one I ask whenever I have a client that comes across and says, I want to start a business. Can you help me? I'm like, of course. Like, you start a coaching business online, you can start anything, right? The foundations are the same, whether you're opening up an insurance business or you're opening up an online coaching business or you're developing an app or opening up a restaurant. The foundations are all the same. Right. And what I say to every client is you need to first define what success is. That's the first step. Now, success doesn't have to be today $1 million business, right? For me, when I started my coaching business, I defined success as being able to work full-time from home by myself with no boss and make $100,000 a year. That's all I wanted. That was enough for me, right? And so when you are wanting to form a habit, you have to define what that success is, right? Whatever it is. right? For me, exercise is to get to 175. Once you define what that success is, then you have to ask yourself, is what I am doing in life, whatever daily routine I have, because we're not conscious people, right? Most of our lives are based on routine, habits.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to ask yourself this question: is the actions I'm doing, the daily habits, inhibiting me to that success, meaning moving me away from that what I define as success, or are they moving me towards how I define success? Right? And weight loss for me, that inhibiting habit for me was eating every day for lunch a sandwich and a bag of chips. That was an example of an inhibiting habit. So, in order for me to change that, I had to create an empowering habit of getting rid of all the bread in our house, all the potato chips, only buying salads in the house, and buying hummus and quinoa chips, and then having the empowering habit of eating salad every day for lunch rather than the sandwich.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight, and it didn't
Yeah.
be like, oh, tomorrow, that was where I started. It took me a year to do that.
Yeah, the key to it is consistency, right? So you know, there's not a drive-through window to physical fitness. There's not there's no elevator to the penthouse of success. There's no fast lane that's going to take you to your goals in a matter of moments. It doesn't
Never
work that
happens.
way. It's consistency. It's doing the same positive actions, the same needed necessary steps over and over and over again, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And, think about it, guys. It's so good that you said it, because I mean, I think what is Tom Brady kind of, even though, whoever the fan you are, but is he kind of renowned as the GOAT, the greatest quarterback of all time?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's amazing.
he's got the most championships, right? So the guy had a 23-year NFL career, okay? And you want me to tell you what this dude did every single day, okay? He went to the exact same meeting at the exact same time. They watched the film of the exact same plays, okay, ran against the exact same defenses. They went to practice every day at the exact same time. He ran the exact same ball handling drills, the 3-step drop, the 5-step drop, the sprint out right, the sprint out left. He threw the same dig, the same curl, the same post, the same go. There's only so much you can do, okay? But he did it every single day with a passion and an intentionality that was elevated above everyone else. He defined himself as the best to ever play the game. He defined himself as a champion, okay,
Right.
and a leader of men. And that is the way that he consistently went about his business, okay? So I contend that if you define yourself as successful, as emotionally strong, as a non-smoker, as someone who has financial freedom, as someone who is physically fit, as someone who has non-negotiables, that they're going to go to the gym, that they're going to eat more lean protein, that they're going to eat single source foods, high fiber foods, okay? Somebody that's going to run a debt-free business, somebody that's going to reach a millionaire status or 100 million, whatever that definition is of yourself. And you commit it to belief and action, and you go and you do it day after day, and you commit. And listen, if you screw it up today, get back on, like you said, you got to reset, get back in it tomorrow. Okay. That's the game. That's the game of our life. Okay. However, conversely, if we don't become intentional about our success, whatever the definition of the success is, okay, if you don't become intentional about it, then you never even get in the game. In fact, it's my belief and my experience that you sit up in the stands and you watch the game of your life pass you by, and you watch it being played and you being manipulated and maneuvered by those who are actually playing the game.
Yeah, most people live what I like to call a reactive life, right? Like they make decisions based on events that happen to them rather than a proactive life. Proactive life is you you have a vision, right? Whatever that vision for it it is, and you work towards that vision, right? You have that delayed sense of gratification, right? The discipline that we talked about. You persevere when things get hard, and then when you reach that success, you can look around and say, okay, this is all I need in life. Or once you get to that stage, you can say, okay, I'm here now, what's the next step? Right? You don't
Right.
always have to go past the next step. Right? I know plenty of people in this world that are extremely successful in life, very financially well off, who never made more than $70,000 a year.
Mm.
I know people in this world that I'm friends with that made millions of dollars a year and don't have gas to put in their car at half the time. It's about defining what your vision for your life is, then asking yourself, what are the empowering habits? What are the things that are going to move me towards that vision, right? Recognizing that it's going to take me time to get there. And then the final component is, if I am working towards that vision and I get there and I realize that I'm hitting granite, this is the part that people struggle with. You have to have the ability to be adaptable, right? When I first started my online coaching business, my first model was called Your Wellness Yogi. I was a nutritional coach and a yoga teacher. I got no money, no business. The second rendition of it was the Elevate Life Project. And that's when it took off, because that's where it made sense for people to work with me. That's the other side of the component. It's not just you have to keep pushing forward. You have to know when to change directions. You
Yes.
have to know when there's always, like, that expression, like, keep digging your well until you hit water,
Yeah.
right? But pivot if you hit granite.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, being able to make adjustments in real time are extremely important to being successful. And I tell folks all the time that it's my personal belief that success is not an end to be reached, in my opinion. Okay. So I don't see success as a place that I'm going to get to someday, jump up on the table, pat myself on the back, say, yeah, I did it. I'm here. To me, the road to success will always be under construction. So I'm always striving and trying to get better, because I'm never going to be the best version of myself.
That's how you stay
It's,
young.
I mean, I'm never going to be that guy that I think that, you know, I've heard it said that, say when you die and you get to the pearly gates, and, you meet your savior, and he shows you this picture or this video of the version of yourself that you could have been. And man, that's a fear. I don't want to look at that version and say, man, dadgummit, Red, you really sucked it up, man. So I feel like I'm always striving to get better, to be more intentional, to love more, to give more, to get out of my own self, to get out of my own head, to forgive myself, to realize that I am such a screw up, that I am going to screw it up, that the people that I love around me, they're going to screw it up and let me down too. So, those are the things that I really truly feel like intentionally are helping me, that can help all of us to grow to a more, impactful, joyful, happy, fulfilling life. Two things, as we, as you can tell, we can have this conversation for a long time. Two things I want to do. First and foremost, before we end, how does everybody find you, Michael? If they want to tap into your coaching, if they want to learn more about you, where do they go to find Michael Kohan?
Go to my website, elevatelifeproject.com. Everything's there,
Okay,
from ebooks, blog, coaching videos, newsletter, you name it. Just go to my website.
great. Any socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any of that?
All linked on my website. So just
Okay.
go. Yeah. And I had my first successful coaching video that I posted on Instagram and got, I think it's up to like 3,000 watches now.
Let's go. I love it.
I
love
started
it.
that a year. I started doing that a year ago, and this is the first one that actually took off.
I love it. I love it. Brother, I'm telling you, it's the game. If we'll just commit to doing it, if we'll just commit to keeping going, don't stop. Okay. If you don't stop, you will succeed. That's it. Okay. You know, the game of business, the game of relationships, we're not in it to win relationships. There's nothing to win. The goal of marriage is to stay married. Nobody
Yeah.
wins. We want to stay in the game. The goal of having a relationship with your children, with your best friends, with your parents, with your siblings, you don't want to win. You want to stay in the game. That's
Right.
the game. Stay in it. Make decisions, make choices that enable us to stay in the game. Okay. To end today, I'm going to put you on the spot. I love doing this. Okay. If you have one piece of advice to give to the next generation coming, to the people who are listening to this podcast today, what is the one piece of advice that you would give our audience on how to live their elevated life?
The goal in life isn't to be happy. The goal in life is to find fulfillment. We find fulfillment by asking the question, what can I learn and how can I grow? That's the purpose of life, is always to be growing, always to be learning. Every time that we get to the next milestone, what can I learn next? That's how we live a great life.
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, brother, listen, man, it's great having a conversation with you today. I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to be on the Red Hot Read, and hopefully you'll come back and we can do it again.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me as a guest. Thanks, Red. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.